All right, you read the title. 5 kinda weird things about maladaptive daydreaming. Let's go. Number 5, excoriation disorder. A weird amount of us are skin pickers. Yes, skin pickers. It is exactly what it sounds like. So people will pull at, their faces or their cuticles or some other spot. I've personally been doing a lot better with it, but it was something I did for a long time. And I don't know if you can see this, but even still, you can see that my thumb is probably permanently discolored from where I would pull at it. Part of the repetitive movement of MD, it could tie into the sort of OCD type symptoms. But it's a thing, it's a kind of weird thing that a bunch of us do. 4, it's not actually called maladaptive daydreaming. What? Back in the early 2000s, that was the name that Sommer called it when he was describing what his patients back then were going through. He did not know at the time it was going to turn into a big thing. But it did, and here we are. So as more research started to be done, and as people started looking into whether or not this could be a unique disorder, they kind of changed the official title to be more in line with the standards of the DSM. So it's actually called daydreaming disorder, in parentheses, MD. They kept the MD because that's what everybody already knew it by. But nobody actually calls it that. We all still call it maladaptive daydreaming. So that might be a kind of weird thing you didn't know. 3, we're actually not as creative as you might think. Caveat, if you measure creativity by output, which really I think people do. It's the act of creating. Maladaptive daydreamers don't create much. Our imagination often stays internal and never quite reaches the creative external phase where you put something out into the world. This isn't to say we aren't at all. Many maladaptive daydreamers do create. Some just because they're artistically inclined, and some even do it as a way to address their maladaptive daydreaming in a positive way. Instead of trying to lessen it, they might try to channel it into productivity. So I'm not saying that maladaptive daydreamers aren't creative, but when compared to normal daydreamers and immersive daydreamers, we're number 3. And that's kind of weird, too. A lot of people can actually control it. I am not talking about immersive daydreamers. I'm talking about maladaptive daydreamers. MD is often seen as this out of control thing where the daydreams will just start unbidden and unwelcome. But what often happens is they do come bidden and welcome. The problem is the urge, the addiction aspect of it. Like a smoker who will fetch their pack, fetch their lighter, step outside, and put it to their lip. It didn't just show up on their lips. And it can be a lot like that with MD too. The maladaptive daydreamer can choose. The addiction doesn't really give them complete autonomy, I guess. But this is kind of a misconception that needs to be cleared up, because what will happen is a maladaptive daydreamer who is like this will think that because they purposefully make the choice that they are not a maladaptive daydreamer, and they will not seek any help for their destructive behavior. You may be choosing to do it, but that doesn't make it a healthy choice. And if it is a healthy choice, you're not a maladaptive daydreamer. And number 1 is going to get heavy. I purposely left this to the last so that those of you who are sensitive to the topic of suicide can just turn the video off, because that's what we're going to talk about. So if that's something you don't want to see, go right ahead right now. Okay, so for the rest of you that are left, 28% of maladaptive daydreamers have a past suicide attempt. That is an alarmingly large number. It speaks to how serious maladaptive daydreaming really is. Now, more research needs to be done, so it's not exactly clear that the maladaptive daydreaming is what is directly causing the suicidality. Could be coming from a comorbid disorder, or the statistic that says 27% of us have a childhood history of trauma and neglect, or from any other number of sources. But that is a number that cannot be ignored. And if you are one of those people, just know that there's a bunch of other maladaptive daydreamers who have experienced similar kinds of feelings. Reach out to the community. Maladaptive daydreamers are weirdly chill. Let's just add that as a bonus, like number 6. Maladaptive daydreaming communities are weirdly chill. They're very welcoming. Like in this way that you don't even have to worry about being the new guy, like you're already everyone's best friend. I can almost guarantee that. I don't know, it's just how we are. So just know, if that's you, you've got the whole other almost 30% who are right there with you. Well, maybe not right there with you, adjacent to you. And know that the entire community is just waiting for you. We really are. It's unlike any community I've ever been in. We're already friends. Not just us, but like the whole, everybody else. All maladaptive daydreamers, they just band together. And that's going to do it for this video. See you in the next one.